So here's the thing, this video is actually more significant than you realise. My life at the moment is one big muddy mess. So before I do any more interesting projects like free electricity from wood and using the latest welding technology and CNC machinery and many of the other projects that I promised to do which I haven't managed to do yet, I need to first get my life sorted. I've got cars to clean. Cheeky. My truck actually has lichen growing on it, which takes years to grow, by the way. My footpaths are a mess. My house is disgusting. My workshop's no better either. And basically, I've neglected everything for far too long. So now's the day I make some changes. So for the past 15 years, I've been using this liability. But this electric version is limited on range and it's past its sell-by date. So I've unashamedly used my YouTubing powers to acquire this. This is Vevor's 7 horsepower, 3,950 PSI portable pressure washer and is actually currently retailing at just £240. So firstly, let's just set this thing up by adding some oil. I've got some high performance 10W40. Now this actually came in a few bits, but it was very easy to put together. I didn't think it was necessary to show you all of that. You know, if you're practical enough to use one of these things, you're practical enough to build one. Well, that should do nicely. I've put about 500 mils in. So a review is no good to anyone unless it's objective. I've already found a couple of design flaws that I think you should know about. First of all, the pipe that's meant to add the soap is kinked over. So what this actually needs is just a little elbow, and that will help that out drastically. Next is the outlet hose connection actually rubs a little on this steel bar. It's not enough to stop it from doing anything, but it's just a little irritation. Now I do like it that everything packs down. If I press these buttons, for example, the wheels come off. I don't know if you can see it, but this wheel has been moulded a little skew-if. These little flaws to me won't stop the performance, and if anything, it's why they're so cheap. Come on, lock in place. Okay, this springy button's getting a little bit stuck. Let's try again. There we go. So because I'm interested in the running cost of these things, I'm going to use exactly 1 litre of fuel to run it. And what they've given me is this bucket attachment that we can use. So this is approximately 10 litres of water, and we'll get this rigged up. So I'll dunk this bit in here and plug the end of it over here. So then let's pour some fuel in. It's going everywhere. Alright, so maybe we're a few mils less than a litre. Alright, so first time starting this, let's have a go. Switch it on there, put the fuel on. We're going to on a cold start and we'll move that over when needed. So I guess we'll just give it a pull. Not bad! So I'll start a timer as well. And now we're out of water. So it's apparent we either need a really big tank of water or I'll just get the hose. Right, so I'll take this thing off. Ideally that needs like a 1,000 litre tank. An IBC would be ideal for one of those. Need a hefty van or truck to carry it around with. Let's just get the hose on. So with that bit of dithering about, I'm at 4 minutes 43 seconds. So let's see how long it takes me to finish this car. See that there? I've put my fingers in that like 3 times already. So in between repositioning the camera, I managed to give it a good go over in about 20 minutes. Now it obviously looks a lot better than how it was, but it's not perfect. You can see, despite me blasting this on full power, there are still kind of streaky bits of mud that are kind of like ingrained into it. And this leads me to an interesting point to do with surfactants, chlorides and bleaches, of which a number of you professional pressure washers will be shouting at me of what to do on this next. And a very simple answer to that is I'm going to do absolutely nothing. I was going to do a whole thing about all the different chemicals that we could use to get the very best results. And after looking into all of these chemicals that we can use, I noticed something very concerning. And that is all of them, including the biodegradable ones, are terrible for the environment. If I just show you here, the runoff is coming into this drain, which I'm about to clean with the washer as well. Directly after this drain, it goes straight into my garden. And it leads all the way to a young apple tree just there. I've got these beautiful snowdrops just coming through. These daffodils were planted by my daughter about 10 years ago now. And recently we've been growing black currants and red currants, which are taking on really nicely. And if I didn't stop to just think for 1 second, all of this wonderful life would just be ended. Despite my industrial nature, I really care about the wildlife. And really, that's a beautiful thing about a pressure washer. I don't need to use chemicals. That car is now clean enough, and because we're in the countryside, it's going to get plastered the moment my wife takes it out again anyway. But anyway, whilst we're here, you'll notice I've got a very big problem. The problem I have is the land actually slopes down towards my house. So every time it rains, the mud washes down and completely cakes this path. The wise thing, of course, would be to take a digger and re-landscape all of this. But I'm in rented accommodation, and at any point we might leave. Been saying that for the last 15 years.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I won't be so embarrassed now when I drive away.
I'm sorry. So I very cheekily asked Vevor if I could have one of their surface cleaners. So they've sent me the 20-inch version. As you can see, it's £186.99. And as you can see, it's full stainless steel. And if I show you what it's like underneath, you can see we've got 2 jets on a rotating arm. It also came with a load of tools, including the adjustable spanner. It's also got a spare nozzle, a reamer kit, and these quick connectors. I'll put these on the main pressure line because quick connectors are awesome. So anyway, on the lead, I'm going to attach this quick connect. That's good. The spanner they supplied doesn't fit it. Great. Well, that's all the way on. Let's hope and pray that works then. One thing I mentioned is I don't have a male fitting now to go back onto the lance. I'll have to see if I can find something off Amazon. But for now, let's test out the biscuit tin with whirly bits inside. Right, I'm looking at this and I'm like, is it actually doing anything? But out of interest, if I just put the lance back on and go over both sides, shall we see if this side is any different to that side once we're finished? Now, for someone who uses these on a daily basis, you're probably screaming at me what the issue is. But I thought one of these would work way better than what I've just seen. Changing this over, by the way, wasn't too difficult. So on the end of here, I've been using a 15-degree nozzle. That's better. What I was saying is, on the end of here, I've got a 15-degree nozzle. That's what I've used on everything so far. So I've done one side with this one, and the other side with the official floor cleaner. Let's give it just a wash over and see what they're like. The 40-degree one. So anyway, this highlights the issue that I've got with drainage. As I'm sure a lot of you are screaming at me already, I just need to sort that out before I worry about doing this. As they say, you can't polish a turd. But interesting, if we look at these 2 parts here, there doesn't seem to be much difference, which is a good thing. It means that this thing was actually working. You will notice that it wasn't cleaning right up to the side here. This is basically what it was before, and that's after. But on the other hand, using the actual floor cleaner, there was no after spray going up the wall. Whilst you may have seen when I used the normal nozzle, it actually splashed all the way up the house, which created more work for me to clean. Right, so I'm going to give up on this bit now, on to the next job. So this is another design flaw that I think's worth mentioning, and that is the torch holder goes directly next to the exhaust. So you cannot leave this whilst it's running. It's not a deal breaker for me though, I'll just build a new holder on the opposite side. But if no one's aware of this, then that can potentially break the machine. Or at least melt all of this for sure. So in my last video where I put up Starlink internet, many thousands of you commented on the state of my roof. Nearly 500,000 people watched that video, by the way, for whatever reason. Now I'm not going to reach all of the people that commented, obviously, but just to go over a few things that people may have missed in that video, I don't have fibre optic internet. There's just none unavailable here, and 5G is also terrible. So Starlink is literally my best option, though it's very expensive. And I recently discovered on the modem that there are Ethernet ports also. Wasn't actually clear on the instructions, believe it or not. But anyway, this is the south side of my roof, and as you can see, it's completely covered in moss. In the summertime especially, that moss dries off and falls off, filling up my guttering. It's very hard to clean the guttering because I've built a polytunnel. Now, the polytunnel itself benefits from the waste heat coming from my house during winter, but also acts as a second layer so the heat is retained a bit better. It works on many principles used in what are known as earth ships, which I highly recommend researching. Anyway, this has got algae on it as well, needs a good clean. By the way, if you're wondering what the moss is like on the north side, it's just as bad, but I've found something super helpful that'll help me remove it all. For just £25 I bought one of these, a pressure washer extension kit, and I can't believe how cheap this is. So over 3000 psi, let's hope it doesn't blow up on me. What amazes me though, it's got all the nozzles as well. We've got 2 straight 0-degree nozzles. One's obviously a lot higher flow than the other. Got 15 degree, 25 degree and 40 degrees, as well as a foam applicator at the end. We've got 5 extensions, and each one of these extends by 375 millimeters, as well as a curved piece that we can use for scraping down all of that moss. And as a bonus, lots of spare O-rings, because I guess these will perish with lots of use. So this extension now gives me just over 2.5 meters of extra reach, which is just about enough to reach the top of my roof. But I mean, personally, I've got no problem with moss, but people were saying that it holds moisture and therefore can cause mildew to build up in your house. The moisture content of my house is below 50% because of the things that I've put inside it, including an active ventilation system, and we've got a dehumidifier as well. Let's have a go at doing a little bit though, shall we? Whoa! Whoa! Okay, that was a bad idea. I might just stick to just cleaning the gutters. And I'm actually forbidden from climbing up on the roof, which is why I've done everything from ground floor so far. Right, I've taken a few sections off, so this is now more stable, hopefully. And then it should be a simple case of just dragging the line across the guttering, finishing up at the drain area. Let's give it a try. I mean, this thing could bend and snap. I don't deem this as safe. I think I've actually run out of fuel now, so that will be 1 litres worth we've used. Yes, so all the work you've seen me do so far was £1.40 in petrol. So if you were to use one of these for a bit of a side hustle, there's obviously good profits to be made, but from what you've seen so far, you definitely wouldn't be hiring me to do it. And on another note, I would say never ever buy one of these. As really useful as this has been, I'm really fighting against 3000 psi. Now I know personally the strength of metal components, and this will not last. Also, if you got a block in the nozzle and pressure was to build up in this, I wouldn't guarantee its safety. So I'd strongly suggest that you just stick with the manufacturer's lance, or get something from a name brand. Well, that is now as good as new. And if you're thinking of building a polytunnel, make sure you get the thick stuff. Some things are worth spending more money on, others are not. Now, what I really want to do is have a go at something called hydroforming. So essentially what that means is fabricating something out of steel, filling it with water, and then putting 3000 psi of pressure into it. What that'll do is turn a polygonal structure into a rounded structure. For example, my daughter wants to make Hello Kitty out of steel, and I think hydroforming will be the answer to that. In the meantime, however, I've got my ADHD hyperfocus on the go, and therefore I'm going to smash through a load of cleaning. Only seems to happen while I'm in the mood, so let's get it done. There we go. Well, she might still be a bit rusty in places, but for a Ford, I think she's looking really good, especially for a 2024 model. So just quickly, whilst we're on the subject of rust and polishing turds, you can see that I've made a repair on my truck because it had rusted through. Well, the repair is also now becoming rusty. So I've not tried this stuff before, apparently it's miracle stuff, but I'm going to use this. This is a rust converter. It's a British brand, so hopefully high standards. I'm not sponsored by them, I just bought it because I'm eager to test it out. Now it did come with a spray adapter for large areas, but I'm going to use a brush for pinpointing all the different rusty spots and not wasting any. So the idea is to brush away any loose rust or paint. I'm going to apply the rust converter. And as the name implies, it should convert the rust, transforming it into something that doesn't rust anymore. So apparently I should give it 15 minutes now, and then in 3 hours it's ready to paint straight over. Right, so it's been about half an hour now, and it is definitely colour changed to that purpley colour. In fact, it's quite dry now, but quite rightly, this hasn't fixed my rust problem completely. There'll be work to do on the rear side of this also, but for that I need to kind of get it up on a ramp. And then I've heard ideas like linseed oil mixed with WD-40 is quite a good idea. You spray it on and it acts as a good underseal. But realistically, this repair was just to get it through MOT. What I really want to do at a later date is completely take this back end off and build something new. And I might even put like a jib hoist and everything like that on it. But until then, I'm going to give this stuff a go and see if it works alright. So here's the thing, this video is actually more significant than you realise. As you can see, I'm actually being quite vulnerable with you, showing you all of my flaws and imperfections, and admitting publicly that I actually have a bit of a problem when it comes to tidiness and cleanliness. So what I'm doing is making myself accountable to you lovely people and the bullies. And that way I'll have good motivation and the right kick to actually do something about it. My objective is actually to be as efficient as possible. And what I've only just come to truly realise after 34 years is tidiness and cleanliness comes before efficiency. The wasted hours that I've had trying to find stuff, or it's getting filthy or beginning to rot, which then ruins the actual project I want to do, well, I think that's an issue that a lot more of us have on the internet than we're prepared to admit. So I'm marking this video as a step for change, as well as I have a faith that encourages good stewardship, and I actually feel like I'm failing at being a good steward. Because, let's face it, everything we have is temporary, even the things that we think we own, eventually, if it's looked after, gets passed on to the next steward. So I actually feel a weight of responsibility now to look after the things that I'm going to pass on to the next person. Whether that's my children or someone else, I should really be looking after my things. The mindset I used to have is it takes too much time. Therefore, it stops me from doing the thing I want to do most. But as I'm learning, proper organisation and tidiness actually creates time. And time, the very little that we have, is our most precious asset. So therefore, I don't want to waste any more. This, by the way, I hydroformed. And using the latest laser welding technology, the welds have come out pretty well. Some of it hasn't worked out, but I'll let you watch that in the new episode. And if you're interested, I have one right here for you to watch. But if not, can I encourage you to take a break from YouTube now and to actually get out there in the real world and to forge for yourself a life worth living. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.